Thank you, Mr. Meadows. Mr. Phalen, as the NBIB director, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that you are a key player in our national defense and counterintelligence apparatus. Making sure that the American people can trust secrets to remain secure is a vital task. Now, the security clearance process, as we all know, relies heavily on the proper completion of the standard form 86, SF-86 form. And as you know, complete, valid, and accurate answers to the questions on this form are vital for the security clearance process. What does the NBIB or any other background investigative agency do to ensure that the information on an SF-86 form is accurate? You don't take applicants merely at their word, correct?
Generally not. Much of the process is to validate that the information on the form is correct, both in terms of locations they worked, locations they lived, their claims of either some or no criminal involvement. Essentially, they're explaining their life on this form, and our goal is to go validate that they have been correct in that, and to seek other information where it appears that it may be incorrect.
And obviously, everybody makes mistakes. Let's say I made a mistake on this SF-86 form. I'd have a chance to correct it. Is that not right?
So in the subject interview, when an investigator is speaking to the applicant and going over the form and talking to them about things, if there is a mistake to be made that has been made, it can be corrected, and the agent will put that into the investigative report, and that will be captured. What that mistake is may be dispositive of how much further we're going to dig. If it's something as simple like a middle initial being wrong, or I got the dates wrong of the years I was in high school, not a big deal. But if I forgot to mention a significant felony conviction, that would be far more substantive, and we would want to go pursue that a lot further.
Aha. Forgive me, I'm new to government. I spent most of my career as a small businessman, so I'm going to ask you some really perhaps simplistic questions in your world. But what if I were to make several errors with my SF-86 form? Not just one, but a bunch. What would happen in that instance?
Again, it would depend on what kind of errors there were. One of the concerns we have had is in the current form, the electronic SF-86, it is, to use technical talk, a little bit kludgy and can be prone to some level of people making mistakes. And so we take that into account. In fact, we're working together with other elements of the government to build a new electronic application form that is far more user-friendly and will lead to less errors on the front end, and even perhaps do some fact-checking on behalf of the applicant during it. But to answer your question about if it's a number of errors, it would depend.
I mean, how many what if there are errors even in my correction? How many do-overs do I get?
Fair question. Ultimately, we would capture the information as much as we can capture from the applicant and try to verify it. At some point, we will make a decision to send the information to the adjudication facility that it makes the ultimate decision about whether an individual gets the clearance, and let them judge for themselves as to whether they think this is too much or not too much.
I understand. This isn't a hypothetical situation. As you know, senior White House advisor Jared Kushner submitted 4 addendums to his security clearance paperwork after his original SF-86 forms contained more than 100 errors and omissions, mostly related to the failure to disclose foreign contacts. Retired General Flynn failed to disclose payments of over $600,000 for his work representing authoritarian regimes in Washington. Both were approved for their security clearances. What would you do if one of your employees approved such an incomplete form?
So working in the hypothetical without using into particular subjects on this, if the investigator did not, if the applicant said, I didn't do this, or failed to report it, the question would be, how does the investigator find that it was failed to be reported? And if the investigator discovered that it had been failed to be reported, the first step would be to go back and try to understand why it was missed and what was missed, and capture it again. And And I don't know in the particular cases you're talking about, because we had no visibility in our organization to any of those activities. Those were done by other organizations, what that meant. But there would be a point when an adjudication facility, adjudication organization has to take into account those mistakes. So it's not our decision to make that decision. It's not our purview to make that decision. We simply report what we know and how many addendums there may be to a report, and we report that.
Is there ever an instance where someone can command you to fast track the verification of an SF-86 form?
It depends on how you define fast track, sir. If we get
Cut corners, fast track, get it through ram it through the system.
Cutting corners, no. So if people ask us to do things, put things ahead of the queue, yes, we do that all the time. To cut corners, we do not do that.
Can you recall if there's ever been an applicant having to submit 4 addenda detailing over 100 errors and omissions, being able to maintain their security clearance once those errors and omissions had been identified?
I will caveat that by saying I've not seen the breadth of all the applications, but I have never seen that level of mistakes.
Neither have I. It's clear that there's a lot more ground to cover on this. Mr. Chairman, you're doing a great job here. I hope that you'll convene further hearings on this subject because it really bears investigation. Thank you, sir.